He was still him.
I feel like once he went down to bantamweight, he was not him. And just like that, we're back in your lives. Road to gold, back on the grind. We got episode 16. I'm Dylan, here with my dog, Ron, here to bring you the best that we have to offer. Ron, how you doing today?
Feeling good today, man. Feeling good. The sun is shining. Hasn't been raining today, at least. I'm feeling all right.
Yeah, I was gonna say it definitely downpoured yesterday, and I got caught in that. Like I was on the road. It was horrible. But yeah, like I said, episode 16, we just had a massive pay-per-view. UFC 302, it was good, I would say. I don't know if it lived up to the hype that we might have put on it, but I think it was still a good card. You know, there were some finishes, maybe not as much as we would have wanted. But there was, it was a good card though, right? Or do you think it was better or worse? What do you think?
I think it was a very solid card. It felt very solid. I think we all had bigger expectations than what it gave us, though. Even Islam, I think, said he saved the card. Like I think we all have bigger expectations, and I feel like that happens. I feel like sometimes when fighters, like when the first few fights go a certain kind of way, and the fighters are in the back, they're warming up, they're seeing the fight kind of play out. They probably don't mean it to go in that kind of this little theme throughout the entire day, but I feel like it's subconsciously in their head. I don't know, man. For the fact that every fight kind of went to some kind of decision, slower paced fight. I don't know. I really thought it was going to be more explosion than that, but it was definitely a card worth watching, regardless.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. It just didn't seem like the urgency to get that finish was there from a lot of the fighters. Now, like I said, there were finishes on this card. Kevin Holland, obviously Islam, Jailton Almeida, he's back in the win column. So there were finishes, but it just seemed like a lot of the people were comfortable going to decision. And, on a fight night, it's fine. On an Apex fight, that's fine. When you're in front of the crowd, when people are together, I mean, we watch the fights together with some of our boys. Like, you want to see people go and get it. And it doesn't always have to be a finish and a knockout. Like, you can go to decision, but it just depends how you fight, I guess.
Right.
You need to fight like you're trying to finish. And it didn't seem necessarily like that was the case. Before we get into the main card, were there any prelim fighters that you wanted to highlight? My boy Roman Kopylov, didn't have the best, I would say, showing for a pay-per-view, but hey, he got the dub. The first round, he looked amazing on the feet. Like, he looked just like I thought he would, but then the next two rounds, he was heavy on the wrestling, but it was kind of like lay and pray wrestling. They got stood up a few times. It wasn't, what I'm typically accustomed to from him, but I mean, I still was impressed. He found a way to get the win.
Impressed necessarily. There was a couple fighters that did their job. It looked pretty decent. I want to highlight Phil Rowe for the wrong reasons.
Your boy.
Because I really thought against Jake Matthews. Don't get me wrong, Jake Matthews is a really good fighter, and they both you could tell had purpose while fighting in there. They both knew that this is an important fight for both of them. But Phil, gosh, man, like, take the next step, please take the next step. You have the tools. And every single time you think he's facing a fighter that's gonna at least lead him to the right path, he takes a loss. And it's happened throughout his career. I hate seeing guys who are unranked make it to like that one or two fight time those two matches that can put them over the hump into getting a ranked fight or getting somewhere like at least between 10 to 15. And Jake Matthews was going to be a good win for him. Probably after that, I could probably assume his next fight would have been for a ranked spot. And you lost.
Yeah.
It's annoying, man. When you see fighters that can't just break through. I want the best for them, but it wasn't enough.
Hey, like I said, I think Phil Rowe could be the Neil Magny of the unranked.
That's nasty.
I know, but it's just what happens. Shout out to Big Matthews though.
Keeping being ranked is crazy.
Hey. I mean, I told you, he just reminds me of Phil Magny. Like he's just of Neil Magny. I mean,
that's he. That's lucky he. Phil Magny is he.
Phil Magny. He reminds me of Neil. Just not only their similar physique, similar fight style, things like that, but just the kind of course that he's taking or seems to be taking. I will say Neil though, Neil's consistently ranked. Like he's consistently in the top, 10. So no disrespect to Neil. I'm not trying to bring you down because you're doing your thing. You're doing what you got to do. We'll see if Phil steps it up. There were some other guys. Jalton Almeida. He got a nice round 1 submission. He's back in the win column, which is crazy because a fight ago he was fighting to be like the number 1 contender, and now he's on the prelims. Doesn't have the best fighting style. I think that plays a big part in it. He's like he's a lay and pray jujitsu person. If that's a thing, like, I don't even know if that's a thing, but it's kind of what he does. He kind of spams takedowns, gets on top, doesn't land too much damage, but can get a finish. And he did. So good for him. Grant Dawson, he did the same thing. He kind of just out grappled Joe Selecki the whole time, but it was more of a he was getting damage off, I will say, but again, wasn't the most impressive in my opinion. But it is what it is. Let's get to the main card here. First thing I want to highlight is Randy. He got himself a dub, man.
He did.
Which
he did.
Needed.
That's a good dub too.
No, that's a good dub. That's a dub against a dangerous guy.
Very, very dangerous. Yeah.
Dos Santos. We kind of were wondering going into this fight who's going to control, the distance, who's going to control the aggression, and they both kind of did exactly what we thought they would do. Dos Santos kind of would pressure more. He initiated some more of the grappling scenarios, which, again, isn't a surprise considering he's going against Randy Brown, somebody whose jab was landing all night.
Yes.
His jab was money. I'm glad he went with it because, like I said, it kind of led him down the right path. Dos Santos did win some of those grappling exchanges. I will say Randy Brown reversed one of them, and, it was beautiful. But nonetheless, got a win. Important.
No, it looked good. It looked good because I know Dos Santos he's crafty. Yeah. When he gets a hold of you, he's just really talented. He's not necessarily a guy who you're gonna look at and be like he's one of the best jiu-jitsu guys or one of the best grapplers, but he has all the skills of a very dangerous grappler and submissionist. So anytime he gets a hold of you, it's gonna be one of those moments of what's going to happen next. And Randy Brown stayed safe. He kept on being able to get out of different positions, get back up to his feet. And like you said, the jab was on point. The jab was on point. And I'm the kind of person where I feel like when someone lands a jab so continuous, I understand, like in boxing, that's great. And I understand how mixed martial arts, how having an established jab can be important. I feel like there's no way fighters should be letting a jab determine how good or bad they're doing on the feet. So you're getting jabbed to death. I'm like, bro, I need to do something. Like, just do literally anything other than what you're doing because you're gonna keep getting jabbed. And I mean, but the jab is so beautiful. The jab is just it's a staple. It's a staple of any combat sport. Being able to set up the distance, set up strikes, it's reliable. The lead leg kick and a jab are like two staple, simple strikes you can do to set up so much off of it. And when you have a really good one, I mean, hey, even Strickland, when you have a good jab, it is what it is. It's going to keep landing. You're going to always be able to continue show the distance and be able to determine all of that. And between Randy Brown and Sean Strickland, what I saw at the jab was beautiful.
So if you're Dos Santos, you're going against a Randy Brown who's taller than you. He has more reach than you. And he knows how to utilize that jab. What are you doing to kind of slow that down or change the course of that?
See, in my mind, you get out jab because one, you're either not being first, or two, you're not attempting combinations. You have to go for extended or long combinations because you have to break through the distance. He's going to jab you on your entry. Use some little head movement. Use a feint. Draw it out because you know it's going to be there. And then once you draw it out, or once you are able to set him up one way or another, then you come in with maybe a jab of your own, just to gauge your own distance. It doesn't have to land. You're a shorter fighter. You're obviously jab's not going to be as effective, but just gauge your distance for a quick jab, gauge it, and then from that point on, hook, body shot, takedown, whatever it is you want to set up next, leg kick. It needs to be in a combination sense. Throw 2-3 pieces. Don't just settle for one. If you settle for one, you're going to go back out the distance, and he's going to continue on that jab. Continue on it. Do not allow him to keep you at bay. You have to, sometimes you may have to take one to give one. That's not what you really want to do all the time, but sometimes you may have to take one to give one. It's okay. But just combinations, though. Combinations is usually the best way to kind of get in there.
It definitely is easier said than done, I will
For
say.
sure.
And again, I haven't been doing anything in the ring for that long. I have sparred a few times, and I can just imagine how hard it is to stop that jab with those small gloves. Like, it probably is so easier to slide the jab in between the guard.
Yeah.
Especially when you got crafty guys who know how to leverage their angles. Like you were talking about Sean Strickland, Mr. Jabber, as I call him. He's one of those guys that knows how to slip through the guard. And I don't know. It's hard. It's a very hard thing to stop. And it's such a simple strike.
So simple.
That everybody should have an elite jab. Everybody should have an elite jab. Because you should be working on it so much. Because it's quick. It doesn't require as much energy as some of your other, obviously heavier, hooks, straights, overhands, uppercuts, things like that. It's quick. It's efficient. Everybody should have one. People like Randy Brown, though, they're blessed with that reach. I mean, he's like 6'3" in the welterweight division. He's blessed with that. So, I don't know. It served him well. But, that is what it is. It's pretty much simple. He's not ranked. Randy Brown isn't ranked.
Right. I think his next fight will probably be for a ranking. I think.
You would think so, because I would love to see him against some of the upper echelon talent in the welterweight division.
Right.
But we'll have to see. Next fight, Nico Price, Alex Morono. I mean, there's not like a whole lot to honestly talk about here. It was exactly what we thought it would kind of be.
It was cut and dry.
It was just very no flair in this fight. It was
no flair.
It was two guys. It was like I said last episode. It just seemed like a throwback UFC fight, like 2008. Just put two guys in there, and they're not gonna have a whole lot of flair. It's just gonna be a bunch of grit. And that's really what it was. Nico Price, he outlasted Morono. Morono started off hot, but Nico Price, more of a veteran, has more fights under his belt. He was able to go in there and get the win.
It's honestly as simple as that, really. Morono, he had small moments where he was able to get distance and land some good combos. But, I mean, it was a gritty fight. And we're talking about grit. Talk about Nico, he's going to win that. That's the kind of fight he's going to win. And he couldn't make it as clean as he wanted to make it. Anytime they would engage, Nico pretty much landed more strikes, the bigger strikes. And yeah, it was kind of cut and dry. You saw where it was going to go the whole time, and that's how it went.
Like I said, there's really not much else to say there. There's not even much to say about the direction of either fighter.
Facts.
I mean, they're both kind of just in that ether of, they're not really close to being ranked. Like, I don't anticipate Nico Price being close to being ranked. Do they have like a list of the top like 30, 40 fighters? I feel like
I
they
think
need like
about that all the time. And I want to say UFC.com used to have like, it used to show the top 15, but then it also used to show like other names in the division as well. And I want to say those other names that be in the division were also in order of ranking, I want to say. I don't know if they still have it or if it's still like that at all, but I think that all the time. Like, if I could just see like a top 25 list, like at all times, not all times, but like, just put it somewhere. I could just, reference it to see where people may be. Because a guy like Nico, you would think if for some reason would have to be kind of near that 20ish spot. He would have to have at least 2 or 3 good more wins to like probably become ranked. But at the same time, if he was to lose any of those fights, he'd probably have just that much harder of a climb. Like, it would just be, he's like almost a forever unranked guy, even though he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter, but he's almost like forever unranked.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be good. It's kind of like in NCAA, they have, the AP top 25, but then you can still see the other colleges like 30, 40, 50. I don't know. I think it would just give more of a picture of kind of where people's trajectory is, kind of how they weigh different things. I don't know. That's just Dana White. If you're listening, take that for what it is. Take the idea. You can have it.
Even just like maybe it isn't, even if you don't want to necessarily rank them, you could just have like a little system, like maybe look a couple, like a little arrow system, like one green arrow up means okay, they're going somewhere. 3 arrow, maybe it's a great finish. Even 3 arrows up, okay, like that they're advancing really well. Just showing trajectory and how good and bad they're doing based off their last fight. Red arrow down, 1 down. It hurt them a little bit. 2 arrows down. Oh, okay, it was a decision loss, but he fought back. But ultimately, he lost, 30, 3-0 pretty much. And 3 arrows down, hey, you got decimated, something like that. It doesn't have to necessarily always be top 30, something like that, but just give us something just to see the other guys that aren't top 15.
Hey, Dana, take the info, man. We're giving you some gems. The next fight though did end in a finish. Kevin Holland submitted Mikhail Olejniczak via armbar in a fight that he actually got. It was very quick, but a fight that he got dropped in. He that's what led to the armbar. He got dropped near the fence, cinched up an armbar, and broke Buddy's arm. Either broke it or dislocated it. It was one or the other.
I think it was broken. It was broken.
Now, again, we watched this live. I recall, and I'm quoting you, that fight shouldn't have been stopped. That's what you said.
I was prepared to get into this for sure. Honestly,
do you still feel that way?
Yes, I do. I do feel this way.
People that didn't watch the fight, Kevin Holland cinched up an armbar on Mikhail Olejniczak, and it was locked in. It was beautiful. It was pretty. Didn't tap, and Kevin literally looks at Herb Dean because Herb Dean's reffing. He says, "I'm gonna have to break it," and he proceeded to put more pressure on. The arm bent backwards. It clearly was either dislocated or broken. I couldn't really tell. We couldn't really tell. But it was clearly dislocated or broken. After a while, Herb Dean called the fight. Mikhail never tapped, though. He never tapped. As soon as the fight was stopped, he immediately protested. And Kevin got the win. You say that the fight should have continued.
It should have continued. I think it's one thing if he no longer had use of his arm for any like let's say after he got back up and we saw it just dangling, literally had absolutely no use at all. I would have been like, you know what? Yeah, it was a wrap. But he didn't tap because I felt like I feel like he knew that he was in pain, but he wasn't compromised. His arm wasn't compromised. Okay, maybe he wouldn't have been able to throw. Well, I think it was the left arm. Maybe he wouldn't throw the left hook anymore, or as often as he would like to. But we've seen other fighters, Tony Ferguson. We've seen a Tony Ferguson get armbarred into oblivion and him not tap, and then the round ends, and then we just go to the next round. Like these things happen, but because he's not a household name, we're just gonna force him to lose the fight. I felt like that's kind of unfair. We need to keep it consistent. If he chooses not to tap, don't end the fight. That's how I feel about it.
I just feel like there has to be a point where we protect the fighters. Like we can't just let things like bro, did you see his arm?
It was looking crazy.
Like, let's say he did, for however possibly he would have survived that and he got up, and then he can't throw that arm at all. He can't block with that arm at all.
That's when you call it.
You can't just call the fight when he's on his feet, trying to like he's about to get slumped. Like he's got Kevin Holland across from him.
It's that bad. My fault. Continue.
Like he's got a guy that's right there in front of him that's gonna put him out. So then he gets put out. So now not only is his arm shattered, but his brain is scrambled. It's one of those things where it's like, man, you got caught. I understand you didn't tap. You're a tough guy. We're gonna protect you since you don't want to protect you.
In my mind, it's the same scenario as when a guy tears his ACL in the ring. If he gets back up and you see that his arm is completely compromised, he does not have the ability to block. He can't put it up. It's the same. It's saying if you tear your ACL, they're just gonna call a fight. They're not gonna let the guy start just wailing on you. Well, this happened a couple times. Those are terrible reffing jobs. But if it's compromised to that extent, when by the time they get back up, Herb, just call it. Just call it. Because it's obviously we know the result of what's going to happen here. It's not even worth going through. Let's just call the fight because obviously to protect you from yourself, though you don't want to quit and your corner doesn't want to throw in the towel, though they should. And it's maybe one of those moments where we're going to have to stop the fight because you continuing was going to do way more damage not only to yourself than you intend on doing. Call it then. As long as I'm not tapping and I'm obviously not, like I'm not yelling. I'm not. If I seem composed and okay, which in the moment he was, don't call it. Don't call it. Keep it going. That's all. That's how I feel. I don't know, man. Because armbars are. That's the other thing. Armbars is a submission that a lot of guys haven't tapped from in the past, even though their arms may have been broken. And yeah, a lot of guys will just tap. A lot of guys won't tap. But if we stopped every single fight because the guy's arm, breaks and they chose not to tap, but they're fully aware and conscious of the fact they didn't want to tap.
That wouldn't happen that much. When's the last time you saw somebody's arm contorted like that and they didn't tap? Like, when's the last time you seen that? I'm not gonna say Tony was the last time, but that's the last like conscious memory you have of that happening. I'm sure it's happened since then, but it doesn't happen that much. I feel like the odds, it's better to play it safe because, again, Mikal wasn't going anywhere. It's not like he was gonna be able to reverse that position and. Like he was cinched in that armbar, like to the point where Kev had the armbar in, was talking to the ref. Hey, I'm gonna break this if he doesn't tap. The ref's like, eh. So then he applies more pressure. Like he could have did that for the next. I think there was another. I don't even know. There might have been another minute or 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Who knows? It could have went on for longer.
So let's look at this in a different light. What if this happened in the Islam Dustin fight? And let's say, to put you in the right frame of mind, what if this was Dustin somehow got Islam in an armbar and Islam wouldn't tap? It's some hypothetical world. Let's just say he wouldn't tap. Islam probably would not tap.
I can't
Would you
even.
be okay with the title changing hands with the outcome of that fight simply because Islam didn't tap, though he felt he could keep on going?
I can't even comprehend that question because it's so off base. Like it's such like a crazy question. Like Dustin arm. Like I can't even like formulate that hypothetical. But for the
Charles Oliveira against Islam. Instead
that's
of Islam triangle choking, Charles he when Islam goes down, he gets him to an armbar situation, and he chooses to not tap from an armbar that Charles has cinched in.
look, bro. I get your point. My point is he had that armbar locked up for like a minute. And it like when it happened to Tony's my guy. I wanted them to stop that fight. Like because Charles armbarred Tony, and that looks so. I had to like look away from it too because I'm like,
And they did.
I would not have been mad. I'm not gonna say I wanted them to stop it, but I would not have been mad if whoever was reffing that fight would have called it off to protect Tony from himself, because Tony's not gonna tap regardless of anything. Like he could have a broken neck, he's not gonna tap.
You know, I don't want to get too far off topic here, but this makes me wonder what's the difference in this situation and then when we talked about Izzy versus Alex and how you want the fight to continue and go out on his shield, but though at the same time he's just sitting there just getting right-handed to death.
Again, it's not like he was in a crucifix. Like it's not like he was being held down. Like he was literally on his feet, leaning against a cage, head movement. Like that's a completely different situation. It's not comparable. It's literally not comparable. Because like I said,
the fighter doesn't want to give up. The fighter, the essence of the situation is the same. The fighter doesn't want to give up. They're in a bad situation, and where the ref is deciding to end the fight, you felt Izzy should have been given a bigger chance. Michelle had Kevin on the ropes. I think Kevin was going to lose that fight outside of that armbar.
Bro,
but here they stopped it
again
for the same reasons: protect the fighter from themselves.
Again, he broke his arm, bro. Like it's not the same. Izzy was standing on his feet.
He was concussed. Izzy was concussed.
How do you know?
Come on, dog! Don't do that! Don't do that!
First of all, you can't even see a concussion, so that's
you can't. But we know he was. He was literally. He had a compromised leg. Izzy, hold on. Izzy had a compromised leg. He's literally sitting there about to fall over. He's using the cage to stand. He has to use the cage to stay upright. This isn't like a situation where he was literally just up bobbing and weak. Like he was literally using the cage with a compromised leg to stay up.
Bro, you just told me you knew he had a concussion.
He definitely did. He was dazed.
As if you're a do you know what a concussion is? Like as if you're like a neurosurgeon, neuroscientist. Like what are you talking about?
So dog, he didn't have a concussion.
How do you know he has a concussion? Does a receiver who gets cracked over the middle automatically have a concussion because he got leveled? No.
A lot of those times in those situations, though, we sit back at home and say, "Damn, he probably has a concussion. He's getting up wobbling. Oh, he can barely stand. He probably has a concussion." We really say that. Everyone will look at the TV and say he probably has a concussion. But you see him wobbling and not able to stand.
Well, good thing that Izzy was standing. So
he was using the cage. Okay, like I said, I didn't want to get too far off topic here. We clearly have done that, and we were bringing up things that have nothing to do with the card now, and it's just crazy to me. Pereira deserved that dub. The ref did a good job ending the fight. It was.
Me Olajaychek. Me Cal Olajaychek. You talking about? Because Pereira didn't deserve it. He had him on the ropes, but whatever. It's fine. At the end of the day, Kevin gets the dub. He is quoted as saying he's the best gatekeeper in the UFC.
No, he is.
I don't even know how to take that really, because this was at middleweight. So this, it really didn't mean anything because Kevin's not a player at middleweight. Like he is not a player at middleweight. He's a player, I'll say, at welterweight. Like if he can string something together, like I firmly believe he could do something in welterweight. Now, what that is, I don't know. I don't know how far he could get. In middleweight, there's no hope for him. I saw what Hamzat did to him. I seen what Marvin Vettori. I seen what Derek Brunson. It's just a size thing, I think. Like, I don't know. So I guess we'll have to see what goes on.
If you want to throw a fighter in there with someone and you don't know who, but you want it to be a ranked fight, call Kevin Holland. He'll do it for a quick 40K. Quick one.
He's all about his bread.
All about the bread. All about it.
Co-main event. Sean Strickland, aka Mr. Jabber, Mr. Teep. He outlasted Paulo Costa in a fight that I will say Sean fought smart. He fought a smart fight.
It was smart, yeah.
He like I said, he was throwing teeps up the middle nonstop. He was jabbing. He was pressuring Paulo. He had Paulo on the back foot damn near the whole fight. Paulo just I don't want to say he didn't come to play because he did. I think he just had a poor strategy.
Very poor. He didn't understand how to go about striking with Sean. I don't know what his camp talked about. I don't know what his coaches were talking about. But whatever it was they thought it was going to happen in there, obviously it was not the case. And it just looked like poor planning.
Well, unfortunately, we talked about this last episode. I said, hey, Paulo, you cannot point for point Sean Strickland. It's not going to happen. Nice. You don't have the jab to do that. You don't have really the striking to do that. You're an explosive fighter. You need to use that to your advantage. You need to make this. It doesn't have to be a brawl. It doesn't have to be like a street fight. But you need to make this grimy, kind of like how you did against Yoel Romero. Like, you need to go at this guy because that's what Sean struggles with, is when it's a dog fight for longer than a minute. Because we saw what Sean did at the end of the fight. Like, it was
right. Always the end of the fight. Always.
And he starts going crazy, and it's like, man, Paulo, if you just make that fight similar but earlier, I don't know. It could have went different for you. It's easier said than done. That requires a lot of energy. Sean's always in shape, and he's very efficient in his defensive mechanisms, so he's not using a lot of that energy. But, Paulo needed to figure something out, and he didn't.
No, Paulo disappointed. He was also trying to jab. He was trying to throw some kicks. The kicks were all right, but, it's not. I mean, Sean has a great check. Sean, this is one thing Sean's going to do is check a kick. He's going to check some kicks. And Paulo just outside of the jab and a body shot every now and then, he had no offense for Sean. He didn't want to throw the right hand. He didn't want to throw any hooks or any overhands. He may have threw a total of maybe 4 overhands the entire fight. Maybe. And a couple of them got close. I think one actually cracked him. That was it, though. Went back to just being on the back foot, trying to figure out the puzzle, and he couldn't. To be honest, I'm going to get hate for this one. I want to say Paulo is the better striker overall than Sean Strickland. But Sean Strickland's defense is so elite in its own category that if you don't have the offense to compete with his defense, his very simplified offense of jabbing every now and then, 1-2, teep kick, occasional leg kick, it is not revolutionary stuff that he's throwing at you. but it's going to beat you because you can get past his defense. I get defense is a part of striking, so I understand that, like he's considered one of the better strikers because of his defense, but his offense is very rudimentary. It's not groundbreaking at all, and fighters are just, I don't know, they're scared or they're just confused or just puzzled. But when they get in there against Sean, they just sit there and they're just stunned. They just don't know what to throw at him. They just don't know what to do. Izzy did it. Paulo did it. Drake is the only person who actually went in there with a game plan of, I'm gonna go fight him, and he won the fight. The book's out. The book is out there. Go watch Dreekus. I don't know, man. It bothers me. Like Dreekus was able to win, but Izzy and Paulo weren't. That's crazy to me.
I can't agree. I can't agree and say that Paulo's a better striker, because, like you said, defense does play a role in striking. And while Sean's striking might be rather basic, he's pretty elite at it. Like his jab in the UFC is pretty elite. Even his off time twos, because he'll feint jab and then throw a two. That's money. He'll mix in the hooks, but he's not, it's really the 1-2. And while it might be basic, he's pretty elite at it. Combine that with the defense, I'm almost confident, at least in the middleweight division, he can outstrike a majority of the top 10, of the top 15. Against Dreekus, he definitely, if you rewatch the Dreekus fight, early on, he was having success.
He was early on. He was,
because Dreekus was trying to go tat for tat with him, and it did not pay off. And then he's like, all right, well, I got to make this a dog fight. If you want to watch how to beat Sean Strickland, you watch Jared Cannonier, a guy that we're going to talk about later. He solved the Sean Strickland debacle, and he didn't do anything crazy either. He just stood his ground, and he fought. He didn't back up. He wasn't retreating. He wasn't trying to do too much. He was, hey, we're both going to be in the middle, and we're both going to strike. You're going to land some jabs. You're going to get me, but I'm going to get you more than you're going to get me. It's pretty simple.
You're right. It's a style. It's a style. I think my thing is it's a style thing with Sean. I mean it with no disrespect to his game, because I respect his striking. I respect it for sure, but I think it's a style thing. It's a cube that people can't figure out. Though you see his past fights, you're in there with him, you've been fighting it for 2 or 3 rounds at this point. You just can't figure out how to get by it. But Dreekus, of all fighters, I don't think should have been the guy to figure that puzzle out. I mean, he did, and I mean that's great. It's simple, but or even Cannonier, another fighter who, of all fighters, I don't believe should be figuring it out. Because I would say for sure Izzy, actually, and I would say Paulo are both better strikers than both those names. Stop it. They are. No, Paulo. You think about Paulo. Paulo is a better striker than Cannonier. I would say Paulo is a better striker than Dreekus as well.
Hey, if Paulo fought Jared right now, I might take Jared. I'm not.
Why would you take Jared? He's just going to explode every 20 minutes.
Not against Paulo. The way, look at when you fight Izzy, it's different than how you fight other people, just because of the way that he's such a counter striker, so you're more hesitant. When we've seen Jared Cannonier face the likes of a Marvin Vettori, a Sean Strickland, we're gonna see it this week. I don't know. I think if he fights Paulo, he's gonna fight him differently than he fought Izzy. And I'm not saying Paulo's probably more clean. He's more explosive, but hey, I'm just saying in a 5-round fight right now, I'm probably gonna take Jared.
I hear you. I'm taking Paulo. I think Paulo is, maybe this is my fandom. Maybe it's my fandom. Maybe I have a bias.
It
maybe
might be your bias.
I think Paulo is, when you watch him fight some of those older fights, when he's still trying to get to that fight with Izzy, you see a different animal. That fight against Yoel, you see the hunter, hands up. He's taking the strikes, he's giving them back, walking you down. You see a different animal in there than what we just saw against Sean. And I think it's a testament to the Sean Strickland defense. It's elite level defense, probably the second best defensive fighter in the UFC, maybe third. If we're including women, I think Valentina may be a little bit better, possibly still, because her countering is also crazy insane. But I think they definitely top 3 for sure. It's just annoying that Jared Cannonier and Drakus were the ones to get those wins, and Izzy and Paulo were the one. Like, that's just crazy to me. It's a style thing.
I hear you. I can't wait on Paulo anymore, man. I get what you're saying. I rewatched him versus Yoel a lot. I see it. I mean, we're talking about a time when Kelvin Gastelum was fighting Izzy for the interim belt. Like, that was a long time.
Chill out.
No, like that, and that was a long time ago. Like, I like Paulo. I went through my phase where I did not like him because of the whole beef, and then he was missing weight. He was just a real nuisance to the UFC, it seemed. He's since rebranded. I want the best for him, but he's not giving me much to work with. So I'll just leave it there, man.
Respect. We'll get the main event next.
Main event, man. Main event. Islam Makhachev, Dustin Poirier. It was a great fight, bro. It was a great fight. In, like Islam said post-fight, I want to say it saved the card, because if this fight had been lackluster, this card would have been kind of poop. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. But it wasn't. It lived up to the hype. It was 5 rounds. It went not the full 5, but it went most of 5. Islam locked up a Darce late, got Dustin up out of there. But Dustin was impressive. He looked good. He got taken down early, but after that, I think the muscle memory kicked in, and he was defending well. Traded on the feet. I do think Islam outstruck Poirier. Not by a lot, but I do think he outstruck him. What were your initial reactions just after the fight? Like, after he locked up that Darce, what was going through your head?
So, look, we talked after the fight. I was giving Islam some credit. You were acting like I wasn't giving him no credit. I was giving my dog some credit.
A little backhand credit, but you were
giving backhand. It was credit. Credit's credit. I think I am more impressed, I will say, with the Diamond than I was with Islam. That's not anything against Islam, but the entire world probably went to that fight thinking first round, second round sub, grounded or TKO. That man defended 4 or 5, maybe 6 different takedown attempts. He was able to get back up after a couple submissions, after having Islam on his back a couple times, avoiding some threatening positions, getting back to his feet. I do think the super wrestler effect was part of the fight, where you got to be very cautious about the strikes, or at least your combinations. You have to be very cautious about your combinations, because they're going to go for a takedown in the middle of your combination. And, that's not Dustin's a guy that likes to string them together, and he wasn't able to do that. It's impressive that he was able to keep the striking so close, though he had to kind of settle for with 1 or 2 strikes. Even you mentioned it in the fight, because in the moment I want to see Dustin go off on him, but you even said it that the reason he probably isn't going for these extended combinations is out of fear of the takedown, and that's probably right for sure. But he was able to keep it close still, which only makes me believe, as the fight was going on, the momentum, I believe, was very slowly, but I think it was surely fading away from Islam and going towards Dustin. I think if that fight got into the 5th round, we would have saw an interesting, I don't know what would have happened, but I think it would have been a very interesting 5th round, especially considering that Islam and Dustin's gas tanks were both dwindling down. Dustin's gas tank, I think, was definitely worse, but only because he had to defend so much and he had to defend for so long over the course of those 4 rounds, which having Islam on your back, getting up from those awkward positions, just to get back to your striking, like doing all that for like 4 rounds straight, it's gonna be so tiring. So he's defending the whole round. I understand you're going to mention staff for Islam. You're going to mention, you're going to talk about his tank being not the greatest because of one thing or another. And I understand that. But the fact of the matter is, his gas tank, it didn't look great, that fight. And come that 4th round, if that Darce doesn't get synced in, I think that would have been a very interesting 5th round. Granted, regardless, okay, yeah, what you got to say? What you got to say?
The fight ended in the 5th round, by the way. Two minutes and 40 seconds into the 5th. So I just want to just put that out there because it did reach the 5th, and they were halfway through the 5th when it got finished.
I wasn't that lit for that. Okay, I wasn't that lit.
Okay,
I should have remembered that. You're right.
Put that out there.
Anywho,
right.
Islam did impress though. He was in a fight and. We haven't seen maybe the first Volk fight was similar in it was similar a little bit, but Volk I don't think was in there to make it a dog fight. I think he tried to keep it cleaner. It looked a little cleaner, I believe, when he fought Volk the first time. This fight felt like a dog fight. It felt like the two guys who were getting tired. One's trying to go for takedowns, get different positions on the ground. The other is getting back up. When they are striking, they're both throwing hooks, and it wasn't jab, cut angle. It was hook. It was uppercuts, and it was clinch work. It was all kind of stuff. And Islam showed that in those kind of muddy looking fights, he's able to he can do a little something in there. So he was impressive when things aren't just going his way. Every takedown attempt and laying on top, and just not to say he's laying and praying, not trying to say that, but when he's just not on top, just being able to ground and pound or go for a submission, he can still be in that fight, and he can still, whether how clean or muddy it looks, he can be a factor, which is I think good for a champion to be able to do, be able to fight both ways no matter how it's going for him. So it was impressive by both fighters, and I'm very curious to see because I can only imagine Arman has to be next. Very curious to see what that fight looks like when that happens.
Okay. Like I said, I agree with some of the things you said. I was also impressed with Dustin. But I don't know why people went into this. I feel like only people who didn't know the sport went into here thinking it was going to be a first or second round submission finish, whatever. Like Dustin lost to Khabib like 5-6 years ago, bro. He's came back since then, and he's shown us improvements in every facet. So I feel like there's no way we could have went in here expecting this to be a cakewalk. And this is what I was trying to tell people in the buildup. I was like, Dustin Poirier, many say he's the greatest fighter to have ever lived who did not win a belt. Like, that's not a light achievement. Like, that's a big statement. But it might be true. Like, he's really skilled. And you don't get to be that skilled not knowing how to stuff takedowns, not knowing how to defend yourself. Obviously, sometimes some takedowns are going to land, and some did land against him. Islam got his back a few times. Dustin, for the most part, was able to create scrambles. I will say some of those scrambles he created, Islam was going for submissions. He was being very aggressive.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, for sure.
Which kind of opened up. Like, he went for the arm bar. He went for the Kimura. Like, he went for some things, which Dustin, leading up to the fight, he said, Khabib doesn't take those risks. Khabib's going to be on top of you. He's going to ground and pound you until you're essentially dead in the octagon, and then he's going to submit you. Islam's going to take those risks earlier, and he did.
I respect it.
Hey, he's going for the finish. Nothing wrong there. On the feet, you can say, hey, he was worried about the takedown. He was worried about this. He was worried about that. I feel it. The fact of the matter is, it became a dogfight. The takedown stopped landing. You know, he didn't have success with it after round 3 and 4. He didn't really have success with it. It was a dogfight. And Islam looked very clean on the feet. He looked very clean. I understand Poirier couldn't set up his normal combinations how he maybe normally would have. Hey, I don't know what to tell him. That's not anyone else's problem but his. Like, just looking at it from an outside perspective, Islam was in the trenches with him. And I don't know. I found it very impressive. As far as Arman, I don't know if I'm Arman, I don't know if I'm leaving this fight and I'm like, oh yeah, this is about to be my dub easily. Like, he's gonna say that. He has to think that way. But realistically, I don't go into a fight with Islam thinking, oh yeah, I'm off of that last film. I feel good, because that's the one question that we had about Islam, and Volk pointed it out in one of his videos on YouTube. He said, we haven't seen Islam really in a dogfight. He said, our fight, you know, I'm quoting Volk, it wasn't a dogfight. Like, we went to, you know, decision, we went far, blah, 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 but it wasn't deep waters. This fight was deep waters. So now not only can Islam grapple, not only can he strike on the feet, now he can also go to deep waters if he has to. I don't know. It's a little spooky, in my opinion.
So I remember I told you after that fight that I think the one thing this fight did was show Islam isn't the Terminator, though. Granted, you're right. He went to deep waters and he still got a win, but he didn't look like the Islam we're used to seeing from past fights. And I think that, I don't want to call it a fear factor for other fighters, but that mentality of he's going to go in there, he's going to strike with you, go for a takedown whenever he essentially pleases, ground and pound you for an eventual submission. Like, that's not, it's like, you know, you get kind of, the word isn't afraid, but it's like, you know, like, how do I go about stopping this, as he's been doing sambo since he was in the womb? Like, what do you do about it? But Dustin, a guy who's not known as a grappler, not known as a wrestler, not known as a submissionist, known as a striker. He has good wrestling defense, but a guy that historically, if you can out wrestle him, you're probably gonna win the fight. As long as you just have some decent wrestling, you're probably gonna win the fight. The fact that 36, 37-year-old Dustin was able to continuously stop these takedowns, land some great strikes. He was able to make yeah, man, come on, dog. Like, he was able to muck up the fight, stop takedowns, get up off the ground, stop submissions. He made Islam look human.
But I feel like he's been looked human, though. When he fought Volk, he didn't look human. The first time?
The fight against Volk, I don't want to say he looked human. No, I don't think he looked human. I think at the end of the day, I think they both were able to get off what they both wanted to. It didn't feel like Islam was being denied certain situations or certain opportunities. It just felt like that Volk was able to, you know, like just subdue it for a moment until it eventually happened, like how we thought was going to happen. Like, it didn't feel like it was, you know, it didn't feel like he looked human that fight. He still was able to get off what he wanted to. Takedowns, got to the back. He ended one of the rounds on his back, about to get a rear naked choke. Most likely, the only reason he didn't just decide to keep struggling for it is because the round was ending. Like, he was able to do what he wanted to do to Volk still. But Volk was able to also get in there, land some good strikes. You know, there was never a moment where I felt Volk had the upper hand. I thought each round there was a opportunity that Volk may have did something to maybe steal the round back for him, but then Islam would do something else that was like, well, the odds are it probably is Islam round. Volk maybe one, maybe 2 rounds at best in that fight. I don't remember the scorecards of that fight, but I remember watching it thinking that, it's close, but this is probably going more towards Islam and Volk either way.
Which, I mean, okay. I thought Islam definitely, especially the way it ended. He kind of ended, Volk was on top, blah, blah, blah. So, in my opinion, that's when I was like, he is human, which is an unfair. I don't think Islam was ever Anderson Silva-esque. Like, I don't think he was ever like that. Like, there was a time when Anderson Silva, he just looked unbeatable, indestructible.
That's facts. He definitely does look unbeatable.
Like, people did not think he would literally ever lose. I'm not sure Islam looked like that, but I understand how maybe he could have been perceived that way. I will say this, though. It's not as if, Arman has better wrestling, obviously, than a Dustin Poirier. Arman gets put in dangerous positions.
He does.
If you watch that fight against Charles had a Darce essentially locked in. Now Arman had good defense. That Darce was basically locked in. Earlier in the fight, Charles had a nasty, I think it was a guillotine. He had a nasty guillotine on him. If Arman's shorts don't slide down,
don't get me started on that.
I think Charles might submit him right then and there. So it's not as if Arman is some indestructible grappler. Now it's going to be harder to get Arman to the ground than it would to get Dustin to the ground. But I don't think Arman's just some indestructible grappler. And then on the feet, I think Islam's on a different level now.
Because I know you're not going to agree with this. I think Arman has to hit him with the unexpected. Arman has to wrestle Islam, take him down.
That's what happened in the first fight. Arman was really trying to take Islam down, and it was very interesting to see because we never see people try to take Islam down, and that's why I think this fight is a good fight because Arman will try to do that.
And I can only imagine from the first match. I have to give him credit from the Charles fight. He found himself in safer situations for almost the entirety of almost every round. He was able to land some, a little ground and pound. I didn't think it was super significant, but he was landing strikes though. So either way, like it's something. And he was able to stay safe against a top-notch submissionist jiu-jitsu guy, which when you're facing someone of that level, of that caliber, the longer you're on the ground for, the more dangerous it is. It's only a matter of time until he figures out how to get you into whatever submission he wants you in. But he was able to stay safe. I think his wrestling and his grappling has gotten smarter. Obviously, he's gotten better because he's just been doing this for so long. But I think he's getting smarter. He's fought Islam once. He knows who Islam is. He sees the film. He knows what he has to go up against. He has to figure out how to subdue the striking. I think the striking is going to be the main problem here for him, because if he can't get close enough to take him down because of a leg kick or a jab that Islam is going to probably impose on him, that's where things start to look very one-sided for him. So working your striking, because that's going to be probably the deal breaker.
And I'm sure at this point, Islam has supreme confidence in his striking. I mean, he's been in there with the likes of Charles, Volk twice, Dustin, some of the best strikers we have in the sport today. And he's held his own. So he'll probably have a lot of confidence going into this next one, but that could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Maybe he trusts his striking too much and it leads him down a bad path. I don't know. That should be the next fight that we see in the lightweight division, that is. Unless Islam goes over to London, fights Leon Rocky Edwards.
I don't think he wants to do that.
I don't think. I mean, he definitely wants to, but I don't think he should yet. Because Leon is he's like that on the feet.
This is a guy who was able to stop a Kamaru Usman.
He did nullify Kamaru in the second fight.
In the second fight, yes.
I will say Kamaru. I don't know. It's hard. I don't want to get into the ticky tack of what Kamaru had going on at that time, but he did. He nullified that. I still think that's a very interesting matchup, though, because Islam and Kamaru obviously have different styles of wrestling. So
right,
maybe it'll translate, maybe it won't. I don't think we'll see this fight anytime soon, but it's always interesting just to kind of see.
Watch the trips. Islam will go for 1,000,005 trips or throws.
Oh, for sure. But that's UFC 302. We watched the pound for pound #1 fighter in the world submit a guy that I don't want to see retire. I hope he doesn't. I feel like he might because he has a broken nose. He has broken ribs, partially torn ACL. Like, he's going through it right now. So I wouldn't be shocked if he did call it a day. I still don't want to see it, though.
How does the ACL be tearing?
I mean, man, they're contorting. They're trying to stop takedowns at weird angles.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I'll be wondering that all the time. Like, how y'all be tearing out ACL?
I find it's weird that they only partially tear them. And that's why I think it's in these weird positions where maybe they're like against the fence or they're stopping a takedown and they get in the fence and it's like it's not fully torn, it's not fully hyperextended. Because in football and basketball, there's no partially torn ACL.
They're gone.
Like it's
gone. Like, gone.
Because you're moving so fast and you're planting so hard. You plant in the octagon, but it just might not be as hard. You might not have as much force. So I think that's kind of why.
It makes sense.
I don't know. That's a good card, man. We got a nice little card coming up this week.
Yeah, UFC. For the fourth time, we get to talk about Rosas and is it Turkio?
Yeah, Tercio, something like that.
Tercio? That's like our fourth time bringing this one back up.
My boy Ricky. We got UFC Fight Night. They're in Louisville. They're at the Yum Center. I actually wanted to really go to this fight. I have a lot of family in Kentucky. We're actually going down next week. I thought we were gonna, we're actually going down next week. I thought we were gonna go down this week. I was gonna try to scalp some tickets, take the whole fam out there, but we'll have to watch it from TV. But this is, an exciting card. Like you said, we might as well jump right into it. We got Raul and Ricky. Finally, we've talked about it twice already, at least. So we don't even need to spend a whole bunch of time on it. But, minus 235, plus 190 for Ricky. Should be a good fight, theoretically.
This should be a grappling. Take your notes. Get the notepad out. This should be some very interesting grappling on both ends. Defensively, offensively, submissions. I'm assuming both their gas tanks are going to be full for this fight, especially all this time they've had to prepare for each other, know what's going to happen. This should be very interesting grappling. I don't know who I would even pick to win this fight. I think just for the plot, I'd pick Raul, but both of them are tricky. They have submissions. They both can reverse positions. They both are like mediocre at best strikers. Maybe Ricky's a little more average than that. He probably has more average striking, I give him. But once they get to the ground, the grappling, no clue how this is going to go. I genuinely do not know.
I mean, I like to think Raul is he looks like the more filled out fighter, which is crazy because he is obviously the way younger fighter. I mean, look at the age difference there, only 19, going against a full grown man at 31. But he's very solid. We've seen in his past fights, he has a lot of energy. He expends a lot of energy trying to get takedowns early, and he'll force that action, which I think in this fight might benefit him because Ricky he doesn't expend that much energy typically. So
especially
he's gonna,
defending.
so he's gonna have to step that up here. I think at the end of the day, Raul kind of overwhelms him across probably 3 rounds, and he gets the decision victory. I'm gonna go with the decision victory.
Hey, Ricky's crazy because Ricky will literally just decide not to stop a takedown. like Ricky, well, there are times where you can watch him fight, and it looks like he just didn't try at all. Like he just would just let it happen. Like Ricky's crazy for it, and I guess I don't know if it's he's just that confident in his grappling, or maybe he feels he's just better than you on the ground, or I don't know why he does it. But he's crazy for it. He just literally just lets opponents take him down at times. He gets complacent on his back at times. But I think he's always trying to work an angle. He's trying to always work something. I think it's not always for no reason. He's trying to work a move or submission. He's trying to work something. But, sometimes it's looked at as him just kind of just being there, just taking hits or, just laying. But he's crafty. He can get up off the ground almost like when he decides to, with using a wizard, underhook. He goes for submissions. Like he has the arsenal on the ground. He just sometimes just doesn't use it, and I think he's trying to set things up. But crazy guy.
Can't do that against Raul. I'm telling you, because like I said, Raul is pretty relentless. He's not gonna leave anything on the table there. He's gonna go for broke,
for sure.
But that could also backfire on him because when you're young and you spend too much energy early, you don't even realize it. A guy like Ricky, who's more of a vet, he's gonna be more measured. He might be able to, take control in the later rounds 2 and 3. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Hopefully, we have the fight. We don't need any last minute cancellations. We don't need anything like that. Let's just get to the fight. Now, the next fight that we should talk about is the Dom Reyes fight. I mean, this is one, and we're both, I would say, Dom Reyes fans. We both like him.
I like him. He's lost like 4 fights in a row, but I like him.
He's clearly shown the ability to be a high-level UFC fighter. We saw him knock out Chris Weidman. We've seen him go toe-to-toe with the GOAT, John Bones Jones. Since then, he's had kind of a rough spell. But is this the fight that he gets back on track?
Well, there's no bigger loser that I root for than Dominick Reyes. This is a guy that, look, last 3 or 4 of his losses in the UFC have been against all champions. I mean, who has that kind of luck, Like he's fighting guys that are champion level fighters. And of course, I mean, not of course, but unfortunately he wasn't able to pull those out. And I don't know if it's just timing or he's just not there yet, or he's just not of that champion status yet. But I think he's better than a lot of the division. He's just unfortunately lost maybe 4 fights in a row. So this is a fight that he kind of needs. He kind of needs this fight because you can't keep losing like this, to be honest. And this is like for the ranking. So like you lose this, you're gonna probably lose your ranking as well, and that's a terrible look. Dustin Jacoby is no slouch though. He has them. He's a very crafty. He likes a clean fight. He has a very good jab. He mixes in leg kicks. He throws really good straights down the middle. He throws good hooks, the combinations. He wants the fight to be as clean looking as possible. Knowing Dominick Reyes and seeing what he's done in the past, he can survive either way it goes. No matter if the fight is clean or dirty, he's going to fight back. He has heart, and he's going to make sure you understand you're in a fight with him. I'm going with the Dominick Reyes win here because I think the desperation calls for him needing this fight, but also Dominick Reyes, I think he's going to show more strength. He's going to be more powerful. I think he's going to throw more bigger shots. It's going to connect, and ultimately, I think he's going to kind of overrun Jacoby with the experience he has fighting these top level guys.
I mean, it sounds very good, man. It really does. I don't know. Dustin Jacoby, man. I saw him knock out Kennedy. I forget even how to pronounce
Yeah.
his last name. It's like Nchekwu. That's a fight that I thought Dustin Jacoby was gonna get smoked in. Like I thought that was you could write Kennedy in stone. But he got caught kind of lacking, similar to what Dominick Reyes does. Jacoby, took a step back, came in with the cross, put him out. Dominick Reyes, man, if he gets in a firefight, is he going to be able to last? You're right. He has faced the likes of Yuri Prohashka. He's faced John Jones. He's faced Jan Blachowicz. But he faced Ryan Spann last, and he still got put out.
He did.
And it's like, man, I don't know. Justin Jacoby, I might have to go with Dustin Jacoby here. For the simple fact that if this fight ends in a knockout, I think it's going to be him. I would love for this fight to go to decision. I want Dominick Reyes to get out of there clean. And I think if it does, that favors Dom Reyes because can't call him elite. But he's a very good striker. We've seen it. He utilizes the body kick really well. Obviously, his left hand straight down the pipe is something out of a magazine. But I don't know, Dustin Jacoby, man. I just don't know if Dom has the chin anymore.
I think Dom has a problem that he hasn't solved within himself yet. He gets caught a lot on entries and while trying to kick. Those two particular situations is like the main reason he gets caught doing anything. Trying to entry with whether if it's a jab or a kick and trying to kick. And the issue with his kick is he doesn't set up his kick. He tries to surprise you with a kick that comes from nowhere, but he does that from a very close distance from where the time you notice him kicking, you can throw it down the middle. You're going to probably connect with it. You're going to connect, and now he just got hit straight in the jaw, and his kick didn't even do anything. So if he can do some self-assessment and just figure out how to stop getting situations where he's getting caught walking in or trying to kick, maybe use setups for the kicks more often so you can at least draw out your opponent, do something other than just making a naked. Don't just throw a naked kick. Because if guys pick up on the fact you're throwing a naked kick, they're going to start countering you down the middle. And that's what's happening to you. And the other issue is just, maybe don't. He likes to box, so he likes his distance to be a little more, in the phone booth a lot. But he tries to entry with a lot of hooks sometimes, overhand sometimes, and sometimes his opponent strikes just get to him faster than his strikes get to them, and he gets countered. If he can just do some self-assessment, fix those two problems, I think we're going to see a different kind of Dominick Reyes.
It's probably hard for him because he does have, like I said, he has really good kicks. So it's probably hard for him to kind of take stock in that and be like, hey, maybe I need to set these up more. Because he knows, hey, if I can land this, it's going to have impact. But he's not accounting for the fact that, dang, for me to land this, I might have to take one straight right down the pipe. And doesn't always work out for him, as we've seen. Like I said, I'm a fan of Dom Reyes, fellow FCS football player nation. So I'm rooting for him. Don't think he gets it done. I guess we'll see.
I also think he wins a dogfight. Also,
I think he loses.
If you watch his fight against Yuri and John Jones, two top level elite strikers, he lost. But I don't think anyone could have took either of those two fighters to the brink that he took him to in those dog fights. And I don't think Jacoby has that kind of dog in him.
The John Jones, I agree. But like John himself has said, I get the best from every fighter. I think when some fighters fight John, they leave that with him. We saw it with Gustafsson. He left some of himself with John Jones. Thiago Santos, he left some of himself with John Jones. I think the same thing happened to Reyes. He has not returned to that form.
That's facts. He hasn't.
He looked good in the Yuri fight. He definitely was losing that fight, but he did have moments. He had flashes where he actually had Yuri out at one point. But Yuri landed on top of him, was able to recover, and eventually spinning elbow got him out of there. Since then, he just hasn't been the same. Maybe this is the card to get him out of his funk. I don't know.
Hopefully.
Guess we'll have to see. Main event: Nasruddin Imavov versus Jared Cannonier. I didn't know Jared was 40. I'm gonna keep it real with you. And I know he was 40 years old. To be 40 in middleweight fighting at this level, you don't normally see that. You see that in heavyweight, you see that in light heavyweight. You don't typically see middleweight older fighters having success that he has. I mean, he's ranked 4. That could be a testament to the middleweight division and where it's at. I mean, they have Hamzat at 10, so it's like, I don't know. But for him to be able to do that, I don't know. That's interesting. We don't see that in really any other division. He's facing a young, spry Imavov, though. I will say. I'm going with Imavov in this one. I'm not going to lie to you.
I have to agree. And Cannonier is a really good striker. I think over the course of his career, he's done better with grapplers, just generally figuring out how to like manage and not being taken down as often. But Nasruddin he's so clean. He just understands how to strike. He understands how to not get into dog fights using his distance because he's really good. Though this is an interesting fight because Cannonier in this situation is the one with the distance on him. So I'm curious to see how he goes about the reach situation in this fight. But he knows how to use his length typically. He circles out. He does not allow you to walk him down. He's going to cut an angle, hit you with a counter. He's just a very clean striker. And Cannonier cannot go point for point with him. He cannot do that. He has to get in his grill, get in his face. He's gonna have to. And I think that's the kind of fight that will lead to a win for him. I'm gonna go with Nasruddin. I have to. I have to go with Nasruddin. I was for a second. I wanted to go back to Jared, but realistically, I'm gonna go with Nasruddin here for a dub. But I do think Jared's gonna make it interesting. I think this fight could get interesting very fast.
Oh, I mean, for sure. By no means is Jared, out. Look at the odds. They had Jared at plus 100. I mean, that's almost a coin flip at that point.
Facts.
So I do think this is going to be a good fight. I do think Nasruddin is cleaner. And typically, Jared struggles with clean strikers. I will say Nasruddin also can mix it up. He loves the clinch.
Yep.
If he can get you to the ground, I think he has the advantage there. He's finished, a few fights. He had Edmund Shabazian in hell. I mean, he had him in a crucifix and was just sending elbows. I mean, that was nasty. If I don't anticipate him being able to do that against a Jared Cannonier, a more stocky, a more seasoned, stout fighter. But, you never know. Things could happen. They could find themselves in a clinch. He could get a trip if things aren't going his way on the feet. Either way, I think Nasruddin comes out of here with a win, though.
I agree. I do think Nasruddin ultimately does win this fight, but there's quite a few universes where Jared lands a big left or right, and you just no telling what happens from there.
It'd be pretty gross because, like I said, Jared's 4. If he wins this, he's in the title picture. He's not in the title picture right now. If he wins this, you have to start mentioning him in those title eliminators.
To be honest, at 40, I think you win this fight. You don't take a fight unless it's for a championship.
Yeah, well, he might as well retire.
He's 40. How many more does he got in him?
Look at. I think some people have genetics on their side. We saw it with Yoel Romero.
He's genetics. Yes, right. That's true.
He's 46, 47, still fighting. I think Jared has we'll see tomorrow, but I don't know. I think he can, especially in this middleweight division, he can make a little run. He only has one more, I will say. But I mean, you're
This is it.
4.
Sure.
He's gonna have to win another fight, like because there's too much. It's too much murkiness at the top. You got Sean Strickland, who said he said he's gonna sit until he fights for the belt. He's gonna get whatever that is. You got Israel, who supposedly is supposed to be taking the fight with Dricus. We don't really know what's going on there. So that's 2 people right there. You got Robert Whittaker versus Hamzat in 2 weeks. The winner of that is immediately going to be thrust into title contention. So it might Jared, if Jared can pull this out, I could see him facing Rob Whittaker if Rob Whittaker wins. If Hamzat wins, I'm not gonna lie, Hamzat might fight for the belt next. I don't know. It's gonna get a little.
So that's nasty though, because if Cannonier fights Robert, and even if he was to win that, we're talking about another at least year until he actually has a shot at the title. Like, come on now.
Bro, if he beats Nasruddin, you're gonna give him a title shot? Like, we can't do that.
I feel you, but like he's ranked 4. If I win this fight at rank 4, why not? Why not? It'd be different if he was like ranked 6, 7, 8, but I'm ranked 4th.
So you think Izzy should rematch Sean?
I ultimately for sure believe that needs to happen
before the title. Izzy didn't get an immediate rematch, mind you. He could have, but he didn't. So it's like,
I think that needs to be squared away. I think that needs to be squared away before one of them lose again. So to be honest, I would say yes. I think Sean needs to fight Izzy again. I think that's the I think that's the perfect fight to determine who fights Dricus for the title. I think that's perfect if you ask me. But
you think they do that, and then if Jared wins this, you give Jared the title shot against Dricus?
I get it. I know how it sounds. I get it, but
I see your logic though. It makes sense. It's kind of gross though. Like off paper, like it's gross.
I'm 40 years old. I'm already Jared Cannonier. I lost once. I lost a title shot once already.
Look bad.
I don't got so much time left in this sport. He's already not a super active fighter as well. Like, what do we, let's just wrap this up. Let's fight for the title. If I win it, to be honestly, I probably retire anyway. Go out on top.
I can't say I want to see that. I see the path. I guess we'll have to see. He has to handle Nasruddin because Nasruddin is on a war path too. So
that's true.
That'll be a good card to watch. Had a lot of fight news. Just quickly want to talk about some things. What do you make of this Jamal Hill on social media? Have you seen what he's been talking about with all the Pereira, and he's telling fans to come fight him for $20K if they got something to say?
He's wilding. He's literally just wilding.
It's kind of
first off, finally saying something about the Pereira fight this long after is crazy. Telling fans to fight you at the gym for $20K a pop, bro. If you got slept by anybody, retire on the spot.
He wouldn't get slept.
I know, but what are we doing? Why are we even acknowledging fans wanting to fight a professional former champion, even if it is for $20K? You sound crazy. You sound like a bozo. Come on, bro. Let's hop back in the gym. Let's get to this money and go fight another professional, someone who's worth your while, and someone who can possibly propel you back to another title shot. Possibly, I don't know, but someone else, not a fan.
I just don't understand. And look, I think everything he say, I'm gonna be honest. I think everything he said in his post to Alex, I don't know if people seen it. He was basically just saying, I defeated Glover in Brazil. I embarrassed him, and I had class, and then I fought Alex, and he kind of pulled a fast card on me and, did the whole that thing and then celebrated. And he's like, he handled it bad. When I think everything he said was valid. I think he was, justified in doing that. Don't go to social media and say this, bro. Just think it in your head. Tell your family, tell your group message, tell your friends in your iMessage group, this is what I feel, blah, blah, blah. Don't go to Instagram and post it. It just looks bad. It lets people know where your mindset is. You're not, you have a fight coming up. You fight in a month. You're talking about Alex? You have to fight Carlos Olberg on the
Not an easy fight.
And that's not an easy fight. He might mess around and lose that. Like,
Might look crazier.
Then you're gonna look gross. You're gonna look downright gross to the point where you might need to take a year off because that's how bad you'll look. I don't know. I'm not a fan of running to social media. It's like when people cry and then they post themselves crying on social media.
Crazy to me.
Like, you didn't have to do that. You could have put the phone down. You could have recorded it, watched it back, and been like, I don't need to post this.
They be setting the phone up. They be setting the phone up somewhere special to make sure the angle's right. To get the angle while they're crying. Crazy.
You don't need to do that. And that's essentially the UFC version of that is what Jamal did. Not a fan, but hey, at the end of the day, probably got him more likes, probably got him more attention. So shout out to him. Speaking of that card, is this card in jeopardy? I mean, Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor were supposed to have a press conference this past Monday. It got canceled. Haven't really gotten any update from the UFC on it. Are you getting a little nervous? Like,
I haven't heard any official word. Of course, people are speculating the fight may not happen. Since then, I've seen speculations that that Michael Chandler will be a backup, and even since then, I've seen speculations that it actually may be okay, and Conor may be okay to actually fight that fight. So it can go so many different ways. If Conor does, for some reason, have another injury or cannot fight, first off, Conor retire because we're not going to keep doing this with you. Second, I don't know. Call Kevin Holland. He'll do it for a check. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what you can do to replace a fight of that magnitude. I mean, like, I don't know. I don't know what you do. I don't know who you can call. Volk maybe. I mean, but does that to me it doesn't fill a void personally. I don't know how you can save it necessarily. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I also heard via Ariel Helwani on his show, he said there is optimism that the card will go forward as is. So we're going to bank on that. I did hear they were, contacting people. I'm sure they contacted Volk. I don't really know who his opponent would be. I don't know who's available right now. That makes sense for him. But he's obviously somebody they would call. Kevin Holland, throw him in there against Michael Chandler at welterweight. I mean, shoot, I don't know. That might be a fire fight.
That actually maybe heat. That actually could be heat.
Just not even skill wise, just knowing both their personalities and both of their fighting style. That would be some good chunk. I don't know. Hopefully that card continues without a hitch.
Hopefully,
but I guess we'll see. Last thing before we go, because I was watching the Chael Sonnen. He made a video on his YouTube, and it was about the BMF belt. And I wanted to ask how you feel about this. How do you feel about the BMF belt? This could be a new segment. How do you feel about the BMF belt not being lineal? How do you feel about the BMF belt being more of a one-off type of thing? Because what this stems from is Dana White post UFC 302. He was talking about they're trying to set up a BMF fight. That doesn't really make sense because Max Holloway is the BMF right now.
Right.
He should have a fight with Ilya already lined up. Like that should already be in stone. So if that's the case, then just say, Ilya, Max, BMF, whatever. If that's not the case, and they hypothetically were to take the belt from Max and say, hey, we're just going to make
That'd
this
be gross.
kind of like a one-off, that would be, they'd have to go about it a different way. But if they were to say, hey, from now on, the BMF isn't lineal, if we just find two bad fighters and we'll just make that a title fight in and of itself, how would you feel about that?
When you put it that way, I think that may be the right course of action. But at the same time, you kind of have to figure out what do you do for the last person who won the BMF belt. Because in this situation with Max, I feel like you can't just have him fight. I understand the Ilya situation, because there's a whole thing with Ilya wanting to fight for the belt. That's the case, and and Max isn't gonna deny that situation. But even outside of that, even if you wanted to have Max fight anyone else, if you had, let's say, a Michael Chandler with the BMF belt, I think you can't just take it from Max and just all of a sudden maybe have it up for grabs. Like, I feel like there needs to be some kind of conversation about how do you go about the previous winner of the belt and what that means for them. Maybe you just give a new belt out every single time, and maybe you just have three in rotation, like 3 different BMFs at one time, just to kind of spread it out through different divisions. Because obviously at this point, a heavyweight can't be BMF if the belt's all weight. You feel me?
Yeah.
like you have to do something like that. Maybe I think the solution relatively easy. Just what's the best way to go about it is the question. I don't think it's not a bad idea. He's kind of fair to logistics of it, though.
Yeah, how to get there. Because that's a good point that I didn't really think of. The way I view it is I really do like it being lineal. Like, I think it's cool how, Justin Gaethje, it was up for grabs with the Justin Gaethje-Dustin Poirier fight. Justin won. Then it transfers over to him versus Max. Max won. Now he has it. Max fights XYZ. It keeps going. But I do think we could get better fights throughout all divisions if we were to make it
exactly
a lineal fight. Because you're right. There's no heavyweight that's ever going to be able to really get it, or it would take years. Like, it would take
a long time
going up to lightweight and losing it there, and then that lightweight going to welterweight, and it would just take too long. Whereas right now, we could incentivize some banger fights if we said, hey, light heavyweight, or hey, heavyweight, or even, if there's a bantamweight, hey, we got this belt. Now, to do it, you're going to have to face this other BMF. Like, you're going to have to, this is going to have to be a banger of a fight. But we can do this. I think that would recruit more people into kind of maybe accepting those fights. Because there's only so many BMFs in this featherweight, lightweight realm. I mean, how many other people is it? Because, Justin and Dustin, they already fought for it. So they're the typical BMFs you think of. I mean, in lightweight, I think Chandler would be a good. I think Chandler would be a good option.
He lose, but yeah.
I don't deny that.
I think of the upper divisions, I think Khamzat could definitely be one of those guys. Gilbert Burns,
I think the higher you go, there's definitely some guys.
Yuri,
like I don't know. There's some good potential fights that I think we could miss out on if we don't do it. Maybe if you add it, it might incentivize some people. I don't know. I thought it was an interesting concept, but I know a lot of people probably like the lineal aspect of it, though.
But it almost makes more sense now. Now we're talking about it because, if you have it in 3 different divisions, you can whoever's the BMF, maybe you can have it like a certain pay. Like, of course, most champions are going to be making over $100K anytime they step into the octagon. Maybe automatically, if you're in a BMF fight, you're guaranteed at least like 80, you know,
But
plus a possible fight bonus.
yeah.
Depending on the performance. Depending on the performance, a possible fight bonus that could be at stake. Or you could just have it that if you're fighting a BMF fight, someone's getting a bonus, but it's only going to be to the winner. So you can still pay them whatever you want, but maybe it's a 30K, 40K bonus on the line just for being in the fight. You know, and you can mix it up a lot of different ways. I think actually, now like thinking about it.
Oh yeah, they can definitely get creative. It'll be interesting to see. I don't really know where they're going with this whole Max Ilya. Is it the BMF? Is it not? It feels like too many stipulations. Me
See, you're coming from
personally,
you're saying this. You're a Max guy. That's why you're saying this.
too many stipulations. It's like, hey, if you're the BMF, you'll fight whoever, whenever, whatever. Like, it shouldn't be all that. But
Therefore, if you're the BMF and I challenge you, you should be putting it up anyway. Shouldn't even be that
he is.
conversation.
He
You're
is.
right. So there we go. Now we should have a fight on our hands.
But Ilya is like, oh, if it's not the BMF, I'm not fighting him. And that's where it's like it loses the people. That's where the people are like, ooh, that's kind of cringe. As the women say, that's an ick. You know
what else is
saying?
an ick? Getting knocked out by a crazy left hand or right.
Could say that for either fighter. So
you're right. I could, but we know who we're talking about when I say this.
The BMF who just knocked out Gaethje. I don't know.
Maybe the soon-to-be BMF who was knocked out Volk.
Maybe. We'll see if he even fights for it. Either way, that's a good episode. Got some exciting cards coming up. Like I said, we got this UFC Louisville. We got UFC Saudi Arabia. I think June 22nd.
That's heater. A fight night. Heater.
Heater. Then we got, McGregor versus Chandler.
Right.
We got some things brewing. I'm excited. Anything else for the good people out there?
Like, subscribe, comment, upvote, give us feedback, disagree, agree, retweet, quote, repost, share, all that. Give me all that.
You heard the man. Do what it do. We'll see y'all.